Hello, is anybody there? Okay, hi everybody. I guess I'm live. Uh, I'm Michael McClung. Uh, wrote a few books, and they told me I need to read a bit of another one. So I have no idea what I'm doing, and I'm a complete hermit and technophobe. So we'll just see how this goes. Okay. What I thought I'd read today is a bit from uh, a book of short stories, interlinked short stories called The Last God. Um, it's from the point of view of a minor character in the Amarthetis series, a very old, crusty old man named Lewin, who is the high priest of Lagna, who is the god of knowledge, deceased. So in the first part of The Last God, uh, Lewin and his acolyte, his long-suffering acolyte Jessup, have to go and figure out why the new incinerator, this new invention, the incinerator for the sewage works, isn't working. So I'll read a bit of that, and we'll see how it goes. Okay. Um, so this is all from the point of view of Lewin. Um, the problem's in there, I said, pointing my cane at the cesspit. The issue isn't mechanical, it's metaphysical. You've got a shit demon. Then next scene. A shit demon? Lund asked me for the 100th time. A shit demon, I replied yet again. Stercor demonium if you want it incantic so it sounds nicer. Drink your beer, Master Lund. But what the hells do we do about it? Lund asked for the 100th time. And how do you know? Jessup chimed in for at least the third. I'd steadfastly refused to answer any questions until I had some alcohol in me and my uncooperative bladder be damned. I had some careful skirting of the truth to do, and booze made prevarication easier. If Jessup hadn't been there, I'd have been able to unload any old codswallop on Lund who wouldn't have known the difference and wouldn't have cared so long as he got his shit to burn. I took another long pull from the jack in front of me and wiped foam off my stubbled lip with the back of my hand. Then I let out a belch. We had repaired to a ramshackle tavern in Loathwater, a place called the Dripping Bucket. It was the closest such establishment to the sewer works. The aroma of old spilled ale masked somewhat the general stench of the neighborhood. Fat, lazy flies circled endlessly in the sunlight that poured in from the doorless doorway. I leaned forward. What we do, Master Lund, is exorcise it, or try to. That's what you do with demons. I imagine we'll have to call the watch in as well, useless as they are. They probably have ordinances about this sort of thing. And how do you know? Jessup asked again. Annoying little bugger. I considered being mysterious about it, but he was a bloody-minded sod, and the question would keep coming up until he was satisfied, or until I'd beaten his brains in. The smell, Jessup, the smell. Lund raised an eyebrow. Begging pardon, revered, but I never noticed any unusual smell, beyond the obvious, I mean. The thing about lying is, you have to keep the lie at a level where you yourself can remember it effortlessly, and where you won't accidentally contradict yourself at some later date. The simplest way to do that is to stick to what and avoid why and how. I gave Lund a glare. That's what they told me in Gulshan when I said I smelled something awful. Almost word for word, as a matter of fact. You expect shit to smell like roses then, Lewin? Assholes. A week later, they found the daemon sacrificing cats. Would have been children next, mark me. When were you in Gulshan? Jessup asked. When your mother was still playing with dolls, boy. Which was true enough. Any lie should be leavened with truth. Is it some power given you by Lagna, this sensing of demons? Lund asked. I very much doubt it. He wasn't in the business of giving out powers even before he got his head lopped off. So you don't know how you know there's a demon in the cesspit, Jessup said. You just do. That's the long and short of it, lad. And that was the biggest lie I'd ever told him. Sometimes a lie is best for all concerned. You never mentioned this ability before, Master. I gave him a sour face. Are you sure? Because it's a topic that pops up in my thoughts all the time. Beef stew would be nice tonight, I'll think. And then immediately after that, I'll think to myself, I desperately hope I don't smell any shit demons today like that one time 40 years ago in a far distant city. Go and get me another beer, Chalkbrain. When Jessup left to do my bidding, Lund leaned forward and spoke low. Begging pardon, revered, but are you sure? I'm sure. Because we've been out there for weeks and never seen a hint of any demonic. Let's cut out all the polite talk, shall we? You're worried that I'm an old man whose wits are wandering. Fair enough. I can't argue that I'm not old as dirt. Get me some paper. I'm going to write a note to Cluj, that ass at the watch. He's a mage, and he loves to investigate this sort of fuckery. So that'll sort out whether my brains have gone to mush. He'll want to deal with the demon himself, mind you, and he'll fail. And gods only know how bad it'll get from there. But at least I'll have the satisfaction of saying I told you so. Jessup had returned while I was berating Lund. He put the jack down in front of me and said, "Don't mind him, Master Lund. It's well past his nap time, and he always gets cranky without his nap. Crankier." I would have given the boy a tongue lashing, but that would only have proven his point, so I just grunted and drank my beer while Lund went to get stationery from his office. 3 hours and a half a dozen trips to the Dripping Bucket's horrific excuse for a Jakes later, Cluj finally arrived, 4 watchmen in tow. His long, horse-like face did not light up with joy at the sight of me. Few were the occasions when we were forced into each other's company, thankfully, but we knew each other well enough. Over the years, it seemed he only grew dour and more unpleasant, unlike myself. I'd pretty much been born this way. "Are you sure?" he asked me, sitting on the bench opposite and motioning for a drink. "No, I sent you a note just to see if you believe me and come out here, and here you are, haha." "How do you know? Did you see it?" "I'm the high priest of the god of knowledge. I know many things, Cluj. Most of them are none of your business." "Where do you think it came from?" "Gorm on a stick, you're unusually obtuse today. Where do you think it came from? Where do all demons come from?" He sighed. "Is there any indication that you might have noticed of a daemonist at work, Sage Lewin, or of a Hellgate?" "No, Cluj, just a shit demon in a cesspit that no one else sees." "I've got hemorrhoids older than you, Cluj. If you're trying to be a noticeable pain in my ass, you'll have to work a lot harder at it." His beer arrived. He put it back in 3 long swallows and stood up. "Let's have a look then." Back to the cesspit we went. That is indeed a cesspit. Cluj had been staring at it for a goodly amount of time. I'd have given him a verbal poking, but I suspected he was using his mage sight, not just trying to appear contemplative. There's a general sort of corruption that registers, as it were, but I can't say more than that, as I can't see more than that. He frowned. The stercodemonium is polymorphous," I informed him. He just kept staring into the pit. "That means I know what the hell's it means, Gluin. Thank you." He turned to Lund. "You can't burn this excrement?" "No, it goes into the incinerator and comes out just the same." "Have you tried to burn the excrement in the pit itself?" "No, why would we? The incinerator is the whole point, as it were. Much more efficient." "Have you got any lamp oil, Master Lund?" Lund scratched at the bush on his head. "I don't know. I could take a look." "Please do." Cluj turned back to me. "If there is a demon, what do you advise we do, Sage Lewin? Exorcise it? Banish the fucker? Send it back to Hells? Do you happen to know how to do that?" "As it happens, I do." "And how did you come by this knowledge?" "I read it in a book once." He gave me a sort of dead-eyed stare, then closed his eyes and pinched the bridge of his nose with an impressive fierceness. "Right. So fighting it is the order of the day. That is an awful idea, Cluj. It wouldn't be my first demon, Lewin. It wouldn't be your first awful idea either, but it would be your first shit demon, I'm willing to wager." "Why would that make a difference?" "Just because it hasn't got fangs and a barbed tail doesn't mean it isn't dangerous. You're used to the physical confrontation, stab things, burn things, find the heart and make it stop beating, but it doesn't have a heart. You can't cut it in half. You can't burn it. Best you send it back where it came from. That way nobody gets hurt, hopefully, if it's there at all." Just then Lund came jogging back with a bottle half full of lamp oil. "This is all we have at the site. It will do for a test, thank you." Cluj took the bottle, uncorked it, and poured the contents into the pit. Then he dug a scrap of paper out of his pocket. He lit it with a snap of his fingers and dropped it directly onto the lamp oil, still floating visibly on the top of the sewage. It ignited at once, sending up black, greasy smoke into the afternoon air. After a moment, there was the smallest of shudders across the surface of the cesspit's contents. Then a wave formed in the middle of the pit, tiny at first. It raced toward the burning oil, growing swiftly larger as it went, and it crashed down on the fire like a breaker at the beach. Shit spray was flung high into the sky. It came down in tiny droplets as a brown sprinkle, like a summer rain shower of shit water, a gentle, excremental rain. None of us gathered around stayed wholly dry. There was a moment of perfect silence. Then it was broken by Jessup, who let out an earnest gagging sound. His whole body shuddered in revulsion. I wiped a drop off the end of my nose and said, I hope you're fucking satisfied now, Cluj. He tried to look dignified, which was difficult with all the shit spatter. I'm satisfied there's something in there. I'm not satisfied that it was that an exorcism or banishment that you've never actually performed is the best way to deal with it. Gorm on a stick, you are a stubborn fuck. I need to sit down. That's an excellent idea, Revered. Might I suggest you sit down a safe distance away, say back at the Street of the Gods? Oh no, you're not getting rid of me that easily. I'm looking forward to seeing this. Lund brought a chair out from the ramshackle office and placed it under a tree at the edge of the work site. I sent Jessup back to the dripping bucket for dinner and something to drink, and settled in to watch the show. And I think that's a good place to stop. um, yeah, I really actually like this crusty old guy, and I hope you decide it's worth your time to take a look at The Last God. And any questions? Oh, we've got a question. Great. It says, where did the idea for this story come from? Um, well, Lewin is a minor character in the Amortheta series. Um, he appears in the first book, and he was a really grumpy old guy that was just fun to write then. Um, and just over the years, his story just kind of got teased out in the back of my head, and um, when it was time for me to finally finish my bachelor's degree, it was a creative assignment, and just decided it was time to tell his story because he's kind of the tip of a very grumpy iceberg, and there's a lot more going on underneath, which was really fun to write about and explore. Says great reading. Okay, I don't think so, but I really appreciate you saying that. I am horribly hermit-like, and I know I rush through everything. Um, um, does anybody? It doesn't have to be about the reading. You can ask me pretty much anything. I know a lot of the SPFBO people are involved in Quarencon, and it's a really great one. So we could talk about SPFBO. I can't say SPIFBO. I don't know. I think everybody breaks into two camps for that. Um, but oh, how has winning the first SPFBO helped my career in writing? Um, I think it's safe to say that without the SPFBO, I would not be able to be a full-time writer today, which I am. I'm not saying I make a lot of money, but I make enough where I can focus on that. And Mark Lawrence, the host and the creator of SPFBO, is he's got to be probably the single most important person in my writing career. I had previously I had a contract with Del Rey, but it was only for ebooks, and that was like in 2002, which yeah, that didn't go very well. And then I did have another contract with a small independent press, which didn't work out very well. So self-publishing has been um, very important to me personally, and SPFBO is kind of the crown on that. Yeah, it's amazing, and it's gonna. The fifth one is finishing up this month, and 10 great books, and everyone should grab one and grab all 10 and get to reading, because they're going to crown a victor soon, and they're going to be only one, just like the Highlander. Oh, it says it looks like you're relaunching the SPFBO winner with new cover art. How did that come about? Um, I've written often and at length about the rather there's some advice out there that it doesn't go far enough. It always says that people always give new writers, new self-publisher, independent writers, the advice that they should never ever do their own covers, and that does not take into account the fact that there are people in the world, me, for many years, that simply could not ever afford to pay for a professional cover. Um, and so I taught myself, free photo manipulation and art software, and just going over the principles of design, and I had for years done my own covers, um, and they're not embarrassing. They're actually decent, and they convey what they need to convey. But at some point, you need to be able to say, okay, this is as far as I can go. And if you can't afford to take that next step and to pay for a professional to help realize the vision that you can't just get to creatively, then you should do it. And the first cover, the new first cover is up. Um, with everything that's happening, I've put the rest on hold. We'll see how it goes, but um, eventually all of the Amaranthus books will have new professional cover art. Hope that answers any questions. It says, I actually really like that first cover art advice for the first time cover designers. Okay. The one the cover that the thief who pulled on Treble's braids, the version of the cover that won the SPFBO was not actually the first. Buried deep down in maybe the Wayback Machine, you can see other even worse iterations or versions of it. And what I would say is, if you want to do, or if you must do, if you've got no choice and you need to do your own cover, first thing you need to do is to get comfortable and familiar with, which is sweat equity. You got to put in the labor and the time. You got to get comfortable with one of the photo manipulation or creative softwares like GIMP, or I personally use paint.net when I do. Basically, you need something that at the very least has layers. So from a technical perspective, you need to be able to actually pick up the tools and use the tools. And it takes time and it's frustrating, but you need to do that. Then you need to look at, okay, where do I need to start as far as what cover should look like? Well, you need to just go and look and see what's going on the top 100 of your category on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or wherever. At the end of the day, there are tons and tons and tons of resources out there for little money or free, but you do have to dig. And once you find something that you like, you start smashing and bashing and pick somebody who is not negative but will tell you honestly. You show it to them, and then if you trust their opinion, which you should, you just listen and say, well, I like this, but why is everything purple? That kind of thing. And you keep going until you start to get where you're at. Let's see. Also, if there's time, cover artists and or typographers you'd recommend. Okay. Honestly, I'm a terrible person to ask that, because I know exactly one of each. But if you do have a budget, then Sean King, STK Creations. He is a great and prolific graphic designer. He doesn't do original art, but he will take what you've got and he will basically turn that into a killer book cover. It says, I second that advice. I do my own covers and it takes a lot of practice. Endless amounts of practice. Yes, it is. You reach levels and plateaus. You will get to a point where you think, oh, this is pretty good. And it is pretty good compared to where you started. But there's always another hill to climb. You can get there, but you can't just say, oh, good enough, because it's probably not good enough. However, that shouldn't stop you from trying and doing if you can't afford, because the great saving grace of self-publishing is that you can change things. When you get to a point where you realize this cover isn't good enough, or I want something better, then you can change it. Try doing that with a print book, that's in all the stores. You can't. So self-publishing allows you to move and to change directions and to revisit and redo better. So try your best and then make your best better if you have no coin. And it is 9:56, 9:57. I know there's another panel that's coming on in just a few minutes. So if anybody has any last question, I can answer real quick. And if not, thank you very much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed listening to Lewin's foul mouth and grumpiness. All right. 2, 3. Bye, everybody. Thanks.